morning, boys and girls. Welcome to our first story time. Before I begin, can I just say a big well done to you? I've been looking at all the work you've been completing for your teachers on Google Classroom, and I'm really impressed with how well you're doing. Keep it up, boys and girls. So today, the story we are going to start reading is called Mr. Gum, and it's by Andy Stanton. So let's begin. Chapter 1. The Garden of Mr. Gum. Mr. Gum was a fierce old man with a red beard and two bloodshot eyes that stared out at you like an octopus curled up in a bad cave. He was a complete horror who hated children, animals, fun, and corn on the cob. What he liked was snoozing all day, being lonely and scowling at things. He slept and scowled and picked his nose and ate it. Most of the townsfolk in Lamonic Bibber avoided him, and the children were terrified of him. Their mothers would say, "Go to bed when I tell you to, or Mr. Gum will come and shout at your toys and leave slime on your books." That usually did the trick. Mr. Gum lived in a great big house in the middle of town. Actually, it wasn't that great because he turned it into a disgusting pigsty. The room were filled with junk and pizza boxes. Empty milk bottles lay around like wounded soldiers in a war against milk. And there were old newspapers from years and years ago with headlines like "Vikings invade Britain" and "World's first newspaper invented today." Insects lived in the kitchen cupboards. Not just small insects, but great big ones with names and jobs. Mr. Gum's bedroom was absolutely Grimster's. The wardrobe contained so much mould and old cheese that there was hardly any room for his moth-eaten clothes, and the bed was never made. And I don't mean that the duvet was never pulled back on the bed. I mean the bed had never, ever, ever been made. Mr. Gum hadn't gone to the bother of assembling it. It was still in the box. He had just chucked all the bits of wood on the floor and dumped a mattress on top of it. There was broken glass in the windows, and the ancient carpet was the colour of unhappiness, and it smelt like a toilet. Anyway, I could be here all day going on about Mr. Gum's house, but I think you've got the idea. Mr. Gum was an absolute laser who couldn't be bothered with niceness and tidying and brushing his teeth, or anything else for that matter. But, as you can see, it's a great big but. He was always extremely careful to keep his garden tidy. In fact, Mr. Gum kept his garden so tidy that it was the prettiest, greenest, floweriest, gardeniest garden in the whole of Lamonic Bibber. Here's how amazing it was. Think of a number between 1 and 10. Multiply that number by 5. Add on 350. Take away 11. Throw all those numbers away. Now think of an amazing garden. Whatever number you started with, you should now be thinking of an amazing garden. And that's how amazing Mr. Gum's garden was. In spring, it was bursting with crocuses and daffodils. In summer, there were roses, sunflowers, and those little blue ones. What are they called again? You know, those blue ones. They look a bit like a dinosaur. Anyway, there were tons of them. In autumn, the leaves from the big oak tree covered the lawn, turning it gold like a gigantic leafy robot. In winter, it was winter. No one in the town could understand how Mr. Gum's garden could be so pretty, greeny, flowery and gardeny when his house was such a filthy tip? Maybe he just liked gardening, said Jane Ripples, the fattest lady in town. Perhaps he's trying to win a garden contest, said a little girl called Petra. I reckon he just quite liked gardening, said Martin Laundrette, who ran the laundrette. Oi, that was my idea, said Jonathan. No, it wasn't, said Martin Laundrette. You can't prove it. In fact, they were all wrong. The real reason was this. Mr. Gum had to keep his garden tidy because otherwise the angry fairy would appear in his bathtub and start whacking him with a frying pan. You see, there always has to be a simple explanation for things. Mr. Gum hated the fairy, but he couldn't work out how to get rid of it. So his only choice was to do the gardening, or it was pan whacking. And so life went on in the peaceful town of Lamonic Biba. Everyone got on with their business, and Mr. Gum snoozed his days away in his dirty house and did lots of gardening he didn't really want to do. And nothing much ever happened, and the sun went down over the mountains. The end. Sorry, I nearly forgot. Something did happen once, and that's what this story is about. I do apologise. Right, where was I? Oh, of course, how could I be so stupid? It was that the massive whopper of a dog came. How on earth could I forget about him? Right, then. One day, a massive whopper of a dog. Actually, I think we'd better have a new chapter to tell you about the dog. Sorry. Boys and girls, that's the end of the chapter, but join in next time where we can read chapter 2, A Massive Whopper of a Dog. Take care and keep up with the learning. Bye.